One of the most common questions I get asked regarding buying cheap homes in Italy, right? Because that's my spiel, and what I talk about is like the real estate side.
Yep.
Is everything having to do with residency, right? What visas can I get? How can I be there for more than the 90 days or the 180 days with the extension? If I want to be there longer, how do I do that? I don't really have that experience because it's a summer home for me, right? I haven't made the full commitment to try to live there. So I only have like a very high level understanding of things. But given that you work with people at least securing citizenship, what would you say are like the multiple or the different ways that people can actually make the move to Italy?
Yeah, well, becoming a citizen certainly is one of the easiest. If someone, well, and in some cases people will make the move first because when you move to Italy, applying there is one of the easiest ways to do it. The documentation process is the same regardless of where you apply. But if you apply in Italy, you skip a lot of bureaucracy abroad. So that can cut that time down even as little as 3 to 6 months, start to finish. It's wild. Some of the other ways people have found to get over there are, work visas. There's something that just recently came out called a digital nomad visa. So a lot of people have heard about this. As long as you can prove a certain level of income and what you do coming into the country. There's something else that can happen too, especially when you're seeking citizenship. When you arrive in the town that you're going to be staying at, you can go straight to the comune, the local town hall, and you can ask for something that's called a permesso di soggiorno, which is basically like the comune's approval of your longer stay. That happens often when you have intention of receiving citizenship through descent. That won't necessarily happen to the average person. So
how long can they stay with that?
Yeah, it depends on the comune's approval.
Gotcha. So they could extend them based upon how much time they believe it should take.
Yeah, because in some cases, receiving citizenship by descent, if you're living there, could be 3 to 6 months. In other cases, some of my clients are previous Italian citizens who gave up citizenship when they came to a new country. People who left Italy, moved to America. At a time, dual citizenship didn't exist. They had to renounce Italian citizenship. That's what makes the Italian citizenship by descent process complicated. That's something that we'll do, is help finalize and figure out if the dates work. But for those that once had it, if they want to get it back, Italy actually makes you move there.
Prove it.
It's like, yeah, do you really want this? Get back over here. Yeah. So, and that process can take 6 months to a year. And so in those cases, the only way to stay that long,
is with the community.
Is with the permesso di soggiorno. Going to the comune saying, hey, this is my name. I used to be an Italian citizen. I'm back, and I'd like to reclaim it. And with the comune's approval, you can stay longer.
Now, are you able to help out with the different visa process, like the digital nomad visa? Do you have any experience with that for clients?
Visas aren't what I lean to in quite as much. Now, if someone needs help, I'll send them some articles to get started. But I focus much more on citizenship, which leads to the passport.
Gotcha.
I find it, if someone has the option, it has significantly more benefits.
And would you say that the best case scenario is if somebody has the 3 to 6 months in time to go there, that's the better route? It reduces the paperwork, it makes it a lot less bureaucratic.
Every time.
Gotcha.
Every time. Yeah, absolutely. I'll compare for you. Certain places in the world, I'd say the average wait time, depending on where you are, could be 3 to 4 years, sometimes 5, which is hefty.
Average.
Yes, I'd say that's an average.
Okay.
There are some consulates in the world, in certain parts of Canada, in certain parts of the US, in certain parts of Australia. It's as much as 10 to 12 years.
Gotcha.
And that's because the appointments aren't ready. And so I have some clients that I'll help through that process because their town might be a 3-year wait or a 4-year wait. I have other people that they're in New York, they can't go anywhere else, and they're trying to save as much money as they can. Their only option is through the New York consulate. It's a long one. That's 10 plus years. Whew. Other clients of mine, because the documents are all the same, in either way, I'm preparing all the documents, the translations, the certifications. Other clients of mine have 3 months, they have 6 months, and they can uproot and go spend that time there. And if they can, it's the cheapest way to do it, and it's the fastest way to do it. Now, there's this middle ground where they can't move, but they also can't wait 10 years or 5 years, and there's a third route where you can hire an attorney in Italy. And the ones that I work with are in Ragusa, Sicily. They're incredible. that process ends up being about 18 months. So for someone who is looking to move quicker than 5 years, but someone who can't move there, that option opens up doors for an expedited service, because using the attorney gives you right to skip the consulate here in the States. So Miami consulate's where I am, right? Where you are too. About a 4 to 5 year wait. I think they're booking 2028 right now. And then there's a processing. Italy takes a year or two to answer, and they use that year or two. It's crazy. However, those same records that would be submitted at the Miami consulate, through the grounds of, hey, Miami's failing to provide a fair time wait, the attorneys would then take those records, bring them before a judge, and say, hey, Karl's appealing to become an Italian citizen. Here are his records. Miami has failed to provide him a fair time. And at that point, the judge would just take the records and make the decision.
Why is the wait time so much longer? Obviously, I know that process and the amount of people, like being in the Northeast,
Yep.
huge Italian immigration wave there. So, of course, there's going to be a larger queue. Mm-hmm. But aside from just the logistics of how the consulates function, what is driving the time so much more? Is it because of sign-offs? Is it just because if it comes through this channel, we have a year to respond? But if it lands on our desk in Italy, we have 90 days to respond. Uh-huh. Is it something like that?
Yeah, well, here's what I know. I know that this has only changed in the past 3 to 4 years. And we can't blame COVID for everything, but it's played a big role in why the processing time here has changed so much. Because it used to be about a 2-year process.
How long have you been doing this for?
Started in the industry about 6 years ago. Okay. And even back then, you could get through the process in about 2 years, depending on where you are. And I feel like it's almost like the real estate market. It's like tripled. It's like give me like a bit of an increase, but 3 times, and that's basically what's happened. Is I went through the Miami consulate, and it was about 2.5 years, and now it's probably closer to 6 in total. I just think that Italy has failed to supply the consulates with enough staff to keep the intake. And frankly, there's a lot of interest in this. One of the things that COVID did do is it taught everybody how to be a baker at home. Everyone's buying flour, trying to make sourdough bread. And the other thing that people did is try to become an Italian citizen. I feel like those were the 2 interest peaks. And there's just so many people looking for options. When I talk to clients, they're like, I just want an option. I don't know exactly what's happening in the next months or years, whether they're in the US or Canada. People are just saying, I'd like another option. And
how is it that, right, I don't have any Italian heritage, unfortunately, else I would have used that already. Yeah. Uh-huh. But how is it that someone can actually contact you and work through the process and say, hey, I know for sure that I have Italian heritage, mm-hmm. or I suspect it because of name or something along those lines. Yeah. How would they actually start the process, and how would they work with you? And what would be more or less your intake process with them?
Sure. Yeah, I usually send people to the website, which is citizenshipgo.com, which says a little bit about me, what I do, and just gives them a good way to find out more information about the process. My email address is bobby@citizenshipgo.com. And typically when people reach out to me, I help them figure out those parameters. So something that I'd like to be very specific about my company is before anyone's asked to sign a document or pay any kind of fee, is let's make sure you qualified. Because I have heard horror stories of people that call me and say, hey, I don't know if I'm eligible. X amount of years ago, I hired this guy and I gave him money, and then he told me I don't qualify. And so sometimes that question's not even answered. So that's most of the time I'm spending is on the phone with clients or answering emails to say, hey, this is what we need to know about your great-grandfather. If you don't know how to figure that out, let me teach you how to figure that out. Ancestral investigation on websites like ancestor.com, familysearch.com. Let's dig and see if you're even eligible. And probably a third of the calls I make, people aren't. And it's a little sad, but at least they're ending the conversation knowing, oftentimes clients, or not clients, but just conversations, they'll say, thank you for at least helping me know because I haven't been able to figure it out. Some of the websites are kind of cryptic, even Italian consulate websites that you're thinking will lay it out.
No.
You're reading it, you're like, am I dumb? Because I don't think I have this proficiency level of language, and it's in English.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that's the easiest way for them to reach me is through the website, citizenshipgo.com or Instagram. I have a page that answers some questions that.
And if you are meeting you for the first time and saying, hey, I'm interested, how quickly can you really determine yeah or no, you're a good candidate, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm thinking about it from a consulting standpoint.
Yeah.
I really don't like to spend free time with people. It's not something I do because I have other things to do, and I charge for my time just so I don't get pulled through.
Absolutely.
So I'm just curious from a practitioner standpoint, how much time do you give for that free analysis of, hey, do you qualify or not?
Yep. Right now it's 15 minutes.
Okay, cool.
And it's proven to be enough time. And I'd say in that time, we can talk through everything that we need to know to determine what the next step is. Sometimes it's enough information to say you clearly qualify or you clearly don't. And then the other half of the time, people don't have the right information. For instance, one of the things I'll ask is, the ancestor that came to America, Canada, wherever it is, when they arrived in that country, when did they become a citizen of that new country? That's not an answer that a lot of people readily have. Now, if it's their mom or dad, or even their grandparents, sometimes they know, oh yeah, my grandpa never became a citizen of the US. Or my mom became a citizen when I was 3. I remember when she took the language exam. Some people have that. Other people, great-grandparents especially and above, it's like I asked them, what's your great-great-grandma's favorite color? Like, who knows that? Nobody. So sometimes it'll be then redirecting them to say, hey, this piece of information is crucial to know if you are qualified. Here's a practical way for you to figure it out. And if, in some cases, some people are like, can I just pay you to figure it out for me? And sometimes I will, but most of the time, they can do it. And that way they don't have to even pay anything. They can just, hey, here's how you figure it out. And most of the time, I think because there's not really a commitment involved, I'm just trying to give information. A lot of people will call back and say, hey, I figured it out. And here's when they qualified and can you help me?
Can you help me now? Yeah, gotcha.
So I spoke to someone today. They knew they had Italian roots. They didn't know if they qualified or even how far back they went. So I spent time, walked them through the process. We found out information about her great-grandfather when he naturalized. It was when his son was 25. And to skip all the jargon, it means she's eligible and she can qualify. And she's so excited. I mean, she just had conversations with her family over the weekend telling them about this possibility. And
I'm curious about that. How often are you finding one family member pulling other family members in to do the same thing concurrently?
Often. So often.
That's more typical.
Well, yeah, especially since when someone tries to go through the court case, through the attorneys I was talking about that I use in Ragusa, that's what makes the process the shortest. If you're not able to move to Italy, the attorney makes it the shortest. Now, that ends up being more expensive because now we're employing attorneys. That's the more premium option that I provide. However, it's only more expensive if one person does it. If a sister or a brother or an aunt or an uncle or a cousin or anyone who can jump on the case with you
shares the cost.
Jumps in, it's just as cheap as the long route because you can split it halfway. I have clients that are like, we got 5 of us, we want to do it. And now everyone's paying a fraction of what they would be paying alone. And absolutely. And then it's like a party. Now they're asking everybody, how many people want to do this? Today someone said we have 12 people interested, and it just makes it a lot more affordable and pretty momentous, when the whole family is awarded citizenship and documents. It's pretty fun.
Obviously that you have a US based audience, you have the Canadians, you have the Australians. Are you currently only dealing with the English speaking countries? Are those the 3 territories that you're finding most people kind of venturing?
I'm the people that I deal with are mostly in those countries, but I'm communicating with anyone that wants to know information. So I have people reaching out from Colombia and from Brazil and from Venezuela. Argentina is a really Italian, and obviously, absolutely. And I'll talk to anybody. I have a client in Malta who just met with the consulate there. So absolutely. And the majority of my clients are Italian citizenship by descent. But Citizenship Go does any citizenship by descent in Europe. So
it's not just Italian.
it's not just Italy.
So you could do Spain, you could do Portugal.
Now every rule is different. And every process is different. Italy is one of the most lenient in generations back you can go. You know, Ireland, for example, your parents are good, your grandparents are conditionally good. Other than that, can't do it. Germany, for the most part, it's parents. Every country's different, but a lot of countries do this, and the process to get it done is very similar. It's similar documentation, similar lineage proof.
Gotcha.
Now, the biggest base is Italy, and I think it's one of the most exciting ones to do it for. But yeah, it's more than one citizenship, and the global reach, while being primarily English-speaking places. Anyone who contacts me, we're back and forth.
I would say probably Spain is going to have another huge audience as well.
I believe that.
Because they have a citizenship program, which you're aware of, that it extends to all their colonies. So
wild.
It's so much simpler. That's another reason why we're choosing Spain. Like my sister-in-law, she went there from Venezuela.
Okay.
She's already a citizen.
Okay.
It took her less time to become a citizen than my wife, who married me.
Really?
In the U.S., yeah.
Wow.
So she just went and just got naturalized through their process. I think it took her about 3 years. It took me and my wife 5.
Okay.
In the U.S.
Yep.
Right.
Wild.
So.
And how, I was going to say, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was going to say how beautiful, too, that getting that Spanish citizenship also changes so many options, even in the States. Because the amount of South Americans that I'm speaking to that are trying to immigrate into the U.S., they're getting denied visas and citizenship.
Yep.
But the moment you're a Spanish citizen,
you could travel, you could get in, you could. Life
it's completely
is a whole lot
different.
simpler.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely another channel to explore into the EU citizenship. Now, this may not be your wheelhouse, but it's a question that is absolutely going to come up.
Go for it.
Taxes.
Yeah.
When I become an Italian citizen, I hear the taxes are high. Am I going to have to pay taxes on my U.S. income because I'm now a citizen?
That's good. Will you have to pay Italian tax is the question. I get that a lot too.
From here, like if I get my citizenship, do I have to pay taxes?
I love the answer because it's no. And it's so relieving. So I've been a citizen for years, never paid Italian tax. The way it works is if you make money in Italy, if you're working in Italy, you pay Italian tax. If you're working in America, you pay American tax. Now, America and Italy have an agreement, which I'll explain in a moment, but I'll preface it by saying this. The U.S. is one of the few countries in the world that require income tax even if you're not in America. So say you move to Canada or you move to Brazil and you're making money in that country, if there's not an agreed upon, whatever that is, then you'll need to pay both the tax of that country and the tax of the U.S. However, Italy and America have an agreement where it's significantly less. If you move to Italy and you're making money in Italy, you'll pay Italian tax, and in some cases, a little bit of U.S. tax. So that's the one thing but at the end of the day, you wouldn't have the option really to live in Italy unless you're a citizen.
Right.
Now, being in the U.S. here, you won't pay Italian tax. They don't tax people that don't live in Italy.
Yeah, that's good to know because, of course, that's always the looming concern. It's like, I'm going to get taxed like crazy because I have this EU citizenship. But if you just get your citizenship, you get your passport, you live in the United States, you're not earning there, then you have no liability.
None.
Right? It's not until you live there and are earning income there.
Income in Italy.
That you are going to potentially have dual taxation.
Absolutely. And dual taxation is important because what I was going to say is it's important to look into the specifics of that. And those are numbers I can't actually give off the top of my head. But because Italy and US have an agreement, it means you're not going to be paying my normal US income tax and my normal Italian income tax combined. That's not going to happen. But there might be a little bit of a presence because the US is one of those countries that says no matter where you are, we'd like a little bit of the pie. So yeah, there's a few, maybe if I could even just share, there's a few misconceptions about Italian citizenship that I always like to lovingly correct, because every once in a while someone will jump on my page and make a really big claim in all caps, like,
some lunatic,
run because they're going to draft you for the military, you idiots, and I'm seeing these comments and I'm like, people just are, when people spread misinformation and you're like, please no, just stop. One, that doesn't happen anymore. Italy doesn't have a draft, so that's not going to happen. Two, taxes. Living here in America, you're not going to pay any Italian tax. It doesn't happen. And then any other kind of liabilities. Someone said the other day, well, but now that you have dual citizenship, what if the U.S. takes away your own citizenship and now you're just an Italian citizen? The U.S. doesn't do that. And a U.S. citizen can't have U.S. citizenship stripped from them because they have a second.
The U.S. still wants to collect their taxes.
Absolutely.
Why take that hook out your mouth?
They're like, you belong to us. Pay up. Yeah.